What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Amazing Dinosaurs. Today we are checking out a collection of Jurassic World T-Rexes versus their prey. And to start it off, we're going to start with this old Jurassic Park T-Rex figure. This T-Rex figure has the real feel skin, so it's actually rubber instead of hard plastic. And when you press on the stomach, it opens and closes its mouth, although it doesn't work too well anymore. It's pretty old. And our first prey is this Dino Tracker's Stegosaurus. This is one of my newest Stegosaurus figures. It has this awesome backpack. There's some pretty cool coloring and detailing all over its body too. For the next mighty T-Rex, we're gonna go with this bright orange one, I believe from Fallen Kingdom. This figure features posable arms and legs, and you can use the tail for a roaring action or for a chomping action. This is one of the few dinosaur figures that has this type of chomping action. For our next prey, we're gonna go with the Amargosaurus figure. This dinosaur stands on all four legs, it has the super long neck, and these two really tall spine or frill things running down its neck all the way to its tail, and has an action button to move its neck and to move its tail too. This T-Rex figure is from the most recent Jurassic World movie, which was Dominion. It has the darker brown body with the black top, it has posable arms and legs, and on this figure you can move the tail side to side to move its torso and to open and close its jaw. Our next predator is actually another carnivore. This is the Baryonyx figure, and this one specifically has the bright orange paint on the top of its head. But let me know in the comments, do you think that T-Rexes hunted Baryonyxes? Back to the T-Rex side, we've got a T-Rex from the original Jurassic World movie. And like many figures from that movie, this figure is actually made by Hasbro, not Mattel, who makes all the new figures today. This figure has some sound effects. You can pose it in a roaring pose, and you can move its tail down for a chomping action. For the next prey, we've got an Iguanodon figure. I believe this one is also from Jurassic World Dominion. It's a medium-sized figure and it actually has an action. When you press down on its back, it chomps its head. This next T-Rex I got very recently. This is actually a custom painted T-Rex figure. You can see right here that it is also a battle damage T-Rex that you can still turn on and off, which is pretty awesome, and I love this camo coloring. This prey herbivore figure is the Hammond Collection Triceratops. Unlike many of the other Triceratops figures, this one has much more natural coloring. It does have a lighter underbelly, and there's some detailing along its face. I really love the detail on its horns. It makes it look really worn. Up next for the T-Rexes is actually another custom painted T-Rex that I got probably a few weeks ago. This figure is called, I think it's like the Terran T-Rex or something like that, and it has an action button on its back that you can use for the tearing action, and another button on its back to move the tail too. And this custom paint job has a much more realistic look, I think. You can see different shades of brown, and then of course it has the lighter underbelly. But the coolest part, I think, are all the battle damage slashes that the artist added onto this figure. So I think this is a lot more battle damage than this Terran T-Rex originally had. I think this next unusual dinosaur could also have been prey for T-Rex dinosaurs. This is a Sarcosuchus, and I believe there's two different versions of this figure. And this one has the green body with the brown on the top, and of course the super long jaw that you can open and close with a button on its tail. This T-Rex figure is a dark green color, and one of the only few, I think, that is naturally dark green. This was not custom painted. Its arms and legs and tail are posable like many of the other figures, and it has a button on the top of its head for the chomping action. Our next prey is an Ankylosaurus. This figure, I think, is from the Camp Cretaceous series, and it features the clay red underbelly and then the brown armoring on top with the tan spikes. And this figure features an attack action when you press down on its back. Back to the T-Rex side, we've got the Camp Cretaceous Epic Roarin' T-Rex. I think this T-Rex figure might actually be a little bit larger than many of the other T-Rex figures, and it features the movable arms and legs, and by moving the tail, you can move the T-Rex's head and open and close the jaw. Next up for the prey, I've got another Stegosaurus figure. This one is quite a bit older. It features the blue-green coloring on the sides. It's got a lighter yellow underbelly. And like many of the Stegosaurus figures, it has an attack button when you press down on one of its spines. Here's another battle damage T-Rex. This figure, kind of like the custom painted Terran T-Rex, has battle damage painted on its body, some on its neck, a little bit on its chin, and elsewhere on its body too. And other than that, you can move its arms, you can adjust its legs and its tail, and it has the button at the top of the head for roaring. Back to the prey side, we've got, I believe, a Sinoceratops. This figure is in the light blue-gray coloring. It's also got some bright yellow and orange coloring on the front of its face. And by moving the tail, you can move the head, and it has sound effects too. These next two T-Rexes are a bit smaller in size than many of the other ones. This first one here is the Sound Surge T-Rex that came out for Jurassic World Dominion, and it's pretty small and it's a hard plastic compared to this Jurassic Park. I believe it's a juvenile T-Rex, and this figure has the real feel skin, so almost its whole body is this soft rubber. And this figure has some epic battle damage on its side, but no sound effects. However, the Sound Surge obviously does have sound effects. For our next prey figure, we're gonna go with one that might be a little controversial. It is a Velociraptor. Do you think that T-Rexes hunted Velociraptors? This figure is the basic Velociraptor, so you can pose its tail, its legs, and its arms, but it doesn't come with any sound effects or attack buttons. Next up for the T-Rexes is a figure that is very special to me. This is a Stomp and Escape T-Rex that I custom painted myself. And let's actually compare this painting with the original version. So here is the original paint job. You can see that it's mostly brown and it has some gray detailing along the top of its body. And compare that with what I did. So it still has a lot of brown on the top, but it's got this really nice green color running all the way up to its face. And then, of course, the bright yellow underbelly. I think it's pretty cool, and it is one of the figures I am the most proud of. The next prey figure is another scary-looking carnivore, but it still might have been hunted by the T-Rex. This is the Suchomimus figure, and I think there are two different versions of this figure. This one is in the blue with the yellow detailing running down its spine, and it has one action button for the chomping action. Next, let's go ahead and open up this brand new one that I bought for this video. This is the Jurassic World Legacy Collection Extreme Chompin' T-Rex. All right, here it is. It's another bright orange T-Rex with the darker brown on top and the light underbelly. It has the posable arms, it's got the posable legs, and the tail as well. And you can actually move the neck and head around quite a lot too. But don't forget, it also has the chomping button on the top of its head. Our next prey is another Triceratops figure. I believe that this one is from Jurassic World Dominion, and it has some unusual colors on it. There's this soft green color in the back, and then it has this more swampy green color running up all the way to its face, and it has the orange on the top of its frill too. And this figure features an attack button when you press down on its body. This next T-Rex is an extreme battle damage T-Rex. It has the light underbelly with brown on the sides and then the gray detailing on the top. And I think this T-Rex might have been what this originally looked like. So check out those differences in the coloring now. They look totally different. For our next prey, we've got another Iguanodon figure, but this one actually came out quite recently. I believe it was released as a pack with a Scorpiovinator figure. And this Iguanodon has the light tan on the sides with the darker brown on top, and it has an attack button when you press down on its back. Our next T-Rex is the Mighty Bull T-Rex from Jurassic Park. You can see the leg tattoo right there. And like many of the older figures, this has the real feel skin, so it's a soft rubber over most of its body. And something that's pretty unique for the older Jurassic Park figures, this T-Rex can actually swallow smaller dinosaurs. And you can see the stomach compartment right there. This prey figure is the Herrerasaurus, and I believe this dinosaur is also a carnivore, but I think it was plenty small enough to be hunted by T-Rexes. And this Herrerasaurus figure features the battle damage on the side that you can open and close. Next, let's grab this huge super colossal T-Rex that's been hanging out in the back. This figure is also a custom colored T-Rex, and it is now in the dark green coloring with the black striping along the top. This figure might be one of my oldest super colossal figures. It definitely has a lot of wear and tear to it. Next up for the prey, I've got a small Parasaurolophus figure. Now it doesn't have any action buttons, but you can still pose its arms, its legs, its tail, and of course its head. And here's another classic T-Rex figure with a light brown and dark brown along the top, and a fully posable body, and the jaw chomping action. For our final prey and dinosaur of this collection is a baby Brachiosaurus figure. This one comes in a few different versions, and this is the light green on the sides and the dark green along the top. Welcome back to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today we are checking out a huge collection of Tyrannosaurus Rex versus Indominus Rex. First up, we've got the Jurassic World Dominion Super Colossal T-Rex. This figure has a dark brown side and black top with the lighter underbelly, and it's got adjustable arms, legs, and a tail. And up front, I can tell that the plastic is a bit softer on its neck. The rest of its head is a hard plastic, and you can open it up way wide, and you're able to actually swallow smaller dinosaurs down to the stomach compartment. That's pretty cool. Next up, we've got another super colossal figure. This is an Indominus Rex. It has the classic light gray body and is pretty detailed with all the spikes and the spines. It's got some spines up there, it's got some behind its elbows, it's got those super long claws on its hand. And just like the T-Rex, you can adjust the arms, the legs, you can swing the tail around. But on this figure, you can also twist the neck too. Here is the next figure. It's another super colossal Tyrannosaurus Rex. This one has the light orange body with a lighter underbelly. And just like the Jurassic World Dominion Tyrannosaurus Rex, the neck is actually a little bit softer. It's like a softer plastic right there. And you can move the arms, the legs, the tail, just like the other ones. And of course, this one has the stomach compartment for eating smaller dinosaurs. And we've got some brand new figures that we can open up first before we dive into the rest of them. This one is the PNSO Wilson the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This figure is super detailed. Look at all that texturing on its body, all the various shades of colors. It's like lighter right here, there's darker shades. These are a lot more detailed than a lot of the Jurassic World figurines. But unfortunately, they're not as posable. Usually you can only move their jaw. All right, let's dig in. This first Tyrannosaurus Rex is the Battle Damage Edition. It has the light orange body. You can see that there's scrapes and slashes all over its body, even on its face and nose. And it has a fully posable body, plus the button at the top of the head for chomping. Over here, we've got an Indominus Rex, the Extreme Battle Damage Edition. With this one, you can actually turn the battle damage on and off. That's so cool. Each time that you press that button, it delivers a roar sound effect too. On the rest of the figure, the arms and the legs are fully adjustable, and there's a button at the tail that controls the jaw. Here we've got the epic Roarin' Tyrannosaurus Rex. This figure is light brown on the sides, dark brown on top, and the lighter underbelly. And the coolest part is the roar and shaking sound effects. Over here is the Jurassic World Chompin' Indominus Rex. This is a bit of an older figure. It's got the hard plastic on the back and the rubber on the neck and head. You don't see that too often nowadays. And for the chomping action, you pull down on the arms to open and close its mouth. I believe this figure is the Bite and Fight Tyrannosaurus Rex. As you can tell by the name, it has one big special feature. Press this button on its back and it does a tearing action. Swings its head around and closes its mouth real fast. And there is also a secondary button that swings its tail back and forth. I believe this figure is the Destroy and Devour Indominus Rex, but you'll notice that it has some custom coloring. So, this definitely does not look like your typical Indominus Rex. And this figure really pops out on my display shelves. My favorite part being those green eyes right there. Next up is the Stomp and Escape Tyrannosaurus Rex. As you can tell by the name, it has two features. The first, when you press this button on its back, it'll escape from its face cage. Just like that. And the second feature is Stompin'. When you twist the tail, it stomps its feet up and down. Comes with sound effects too. Here we have a classically colored Destroy and Devour Indominus Rex. This figure is pretty detailed over its body. It's got tons of spikes on its back. It's got those spines right along its neck. It's got some unique coloring along its eyes, right next to those orange eyes. And this figure has a few different features. First, when you bend the legs forward, it'll actually point its head down. And when you bend them back, it'll point its head upwards. Secondly, there's a button on its back that's used for slashing. And finally, there's a button on its tail for the chomping and roaring. Here is an extreme battle damage Tyrannosaurus Rex. This figure is pretty poseable. You're able to move the arms, the legs, and swing the tail around, as well as adjust the neck and open and shut the jaw by hand. But the coolest part is the battle damage that you can turn on and off, just like the Indominus Rex that we saw earlier. And you can see it on both sides. Next up, we've got the Extreme Chompin' Tyrannosaurus Rex. This figure has a more gray-brown coloring on the sides, with a darker brown on top and the light underbelly, and is adjustable just like many of the other figures. And it has the button at the top of its head for chomping and roaring. Here is another Indominus Rex, but this does not look normal. This is a hybrid Indominus Rex. So this one has some pretty awesome and unique coloring along its body. It's the only Indominus Rex to have red on its body, I believe, as well as the gold on its arms and its belly. And this dinosaur has a few features. First is a hidden button that activates its spikes on its back. Secondly is the chomping action, which you activate by moving its arm. Here we have, I believe, another extreme chomping Tyrannosaurus Rex. This one, though, has the orange body with the brown coloring on the top with the lighter underbelly. And of course, that chomping button right on the top of its head. This is the Stomp and Chomp Tyrannosaurus Rex. It has the typical orange body with the brown top and lighter underbelly. And what I really like about this figure is that you use the tail to control the head and the whole front of the body for chomping and for roaring too. Here we've got a model Indominus Rex, which I don't see that many of. But what I like about these models is that they're so much more intricately colored and textured. Check out those spikes on its back. They're so small on all those little spines. And all those little horn things right along its back all the way to its tail. And just like many other model figures, you can't adjust the arms and legs. Only the mouth can open and close in these. But these sure look epic on a display shelf. Next up is the Legacy Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is one of the few Tyrannosauruses that I have that are this cool green color with the black detailing on the top. It has that same button on the top of its head for chomping. And this T-Rex actually came with a baby T-Rex in the same pack. So these came together. Here is a smaller Indominus Rex figure with the battle damage on the side that you can open and close. And while most of its body is that iconic gray color, it does have some gray-green coloring along the top, which is different from most of my other Indominus Rex figures. Plus, this figure comes with a chomping action when you move the tail. Way at the bottom here, I've actually got the T-Rex anatomy kit. Now I am missing a few pieces to it. It's really easy to misplace these, but it's really cool that you can take this apart to check out all the different body parts within. You can take the ribs out, you can see this muscle on its tail and the bone behind it, and you can even take apart this foot right here and see what's underneath. How cool is that? This is the Bashers and Biters Indominus Rex figure. This is from the old Jurassic World toy line. and it has similar coloring to the rest of them, a little bit darker gray on top, got the battle damage on the side, and of course you can move the tail to control the face. This is a Tyrannosaurus Rex figure, but I believe it is a juvenile or even a baby T-Rex. You can see it's got the mouth restraint on because the humans are actually healing its leg. It's got a broken leg, so it's got this bandage around it. And this figure is very adjustable too. You can move all the limbs, even at the elbows. And of course you can move the tail and twist the head around and even open and close the mouth. This is the Feeding Frenzy Indominus Rex. This is a lot smaller than most of the Indominus Rex figures, but it has quite a large face to it. And it has a few features. The first is when you press this button on its nose, get some sound effects. And the second is when you move the tail, it opens its mouth to eat, and then you can press down on its tongue to clamp shut its jaw. And last of all, I've got a few small figures in here. Got a Lego Indominus Rex figure, which is pretty cool. It's the only Lego figure that I have in this bin, at least. We've also got some miniature Tyrannosaurus Rex figures from Jurassic World. This one is green with a light underbelly, and the second one here is brown with a light underbelly as well. And I also have these two Indominus Rexes in this bin. The first one is white with silver, reflective silver on its top, and you can open and close the jaw. And the second one is a clear Indominus Rex. You can't move any parts on this figure, but I think it's pretty cool that it's see-through. Today we're going to be checking out this giant bin full of T-Rexes, Gigantosauruses, Spinosauruses, and Carnotaurus, all from Jurassic World. First up is this extreme chomping Spinosaurus. It's got the green body with the red spine and the red around its face and a button to open and close its jaw. Next, we've got a huge Gigantosaurus figure with the classic green body and black detailing all along its top and sides. This figure is fully posable with its legs, arms, and its tail, and it actually has two action buttons. One to swing the torso around, and one to open and close the jaw. Here is a really old T-Rex figure. This is from Jurassic Park. It's got the red and black body. Its whole body is soft and rubbery, aside from its arms and its legs. It's got a huge set of teeth and those yellow eyes, and it used to have an action button that would open and close its jaw, but it's a little old and doesn't work quite as well now. Here is a Carnotaurus with some bright orange-red coloring along its body and darker coloring along the top. Its skin is super bumpy and textured. It's got those huge horns on the top of its head, and it is fully posable with the arms, the legs, and the tail, and you can actually use the tail to move the head up and down and open and close its jaw. Here's a T-Rex from the Jurassic World Dominion series. It has much darker coloring than many T-Rex figures and a much larger head as well. It's got some bright yellow eyes, a huge set of teeth, and with a tail like many other T-Rex figures, you can use it to twist its head, move it around, and open and close its jaw. This is the Stomp and Escape Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's got a lighter color body with some gray detailing all over. It's got fully posable arms, and actually the feet stomp whenever you twist the tail back and forth. And there's one more action on its back, a button that you can press for the roaring. Here is another Carnotaurus figure. It's got a darker red coloring along its body and an almost purple color along the top of its body. It's got the same bumpy texture and the horns on the top of its head. This dinosaur's eyes are black though, which is pretty scary looking. And there's an action button on its back for the chomping. This is the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus figure. A bit smaller than the last one we saw, but it still has the same awesome coloring and the huge black spine along its back. It is fully posable. You can move the tail, the legs, and the arm, and you can open and close the mouth manually. And the most important part for the sound effects is you press on top of this spine. That's got a really long roar. One detail that I didn't really notice too much before is that you can see a lot of battle damage all along its body. It's got all these slashes and scrapes on its legs, on its torso, and just everywhere. That's pretty cool. Here is a giant Spinosaurus figure with different coloring than any other figure that I have. And it's even a little more intricate than a lot of the dinosaur figures that I have. It's got blue along its spine, it's got these tan lines and dark brown all over its body. It's got a lighter underbelly. Its nails are painted like this orange brown color and they're faded, which is really cool. It's got these glowing green eyes and it's got some dirty looking teeth too, which is a fun detail. Next up, I've got the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is the same figure as the Sound Surge Gigantosaurus, a bit smaller than a lot of the T-Rex figures over there, but it's got a similar coloring with the brown and the gray detailing along its neck. This figure is fully posable as well. You can move the legs, the tail, the arm, and you can open and close the mouth. And of course, there's the button for the sound effects. Here's another T-Rex figure. I believe this one is from the first Jurassic World movie, so it looks quite a bit different. It's got a rubbery tail and a rubbery neck that you can push back and forth, and it has a chomping function as well. This is a Spinosaurus figure from Jurassic Park, and it looks totally different from the Jurassic World Spinosaurus figures. Still got the big spine, but it's got totally different coloring, its head shape is pretty different, and overall it just looks totally different from the new ones. Here is another Carnotaurus figure. This one has a dark brown coloring with darker detailing along the top. It's got the same bumpy texture along its skin, the two big horns, and the yellow eyes. And it is fully posable as well. You can move the legs, you can move the arms, and you can use the tail to control the head. This T-Rex figure is super posable. Not only can you move the tail, the legs, and the arms, but you can actually move the neck in all directions so you can have it look wherever you want it to, which is really cool. And this figure has the button on the top of its head used for opening and closing the jaw. This T-Rex figure is another old Jurassic World figure, I believe from the first movie. It's got a light tan body and it is pretty posable. You can move the arms, the legs. Can't move the tail at all, but it does have an action button on its back to open and close the jaw. You know what? I almost forgot about these brand new ones that I just bought to add to my collection. Let's start with this Jurassic World Dominion Extreme Damage Tyrannosaurus Rex. Let's click that tail in there. Easy enough. All right, so I think this is the newest battle damage T-Rex that they've made, and it's got some pretty cool coloring. It's got a much darker orange coloring than many of the T-Rex figures, and it's got some detailing along its entire body, like discoloration that make it look quite a bit more realistic, I think. It's also got some dark gray detailing right along its back and neck, all the way up to around its eyes and its nose. And its entire body is pretty posable too. You can move the legs, you can move the arms, you can move the tail, you can twist the neck in all sorts of directions so you can have it look wherever you want it. And you can pose the mouth as well. It stays open, it doesn't require a button to keep it open. But there is one button on its back, and that's used for activating the extreme battle damage. This battle damage is just like some of the other Tyrannosaurus Rex figures that I have, and I really like how they do this feature, so I'm glad that they're keeping it going. The next brand new figure that I bought for this collection is the Sound Surge Carnotaurus. Let's check it out. Then we gotta click this leg in, and the tail. That went in pretty easy. This Carnotaurus figure has the same red coloring as many of the other Carnotaurus figures that I have, but as you can see, it doesn't have that much other detailing along its body. It is just a plain red color. Aside from around its head, it's got some gray detailing along its neck and on the top of its head too. It's got some dark gray or black eyes, and you can open the mouth manually. And most important of all, you've got the button for the sound effects. Next up is this giant T-Rex with a tearing action. Using this first button on its back, you can actually have it tear and twist away as if it's grabbing a huge piece of meat. That's pretty cool. I don't have another T-Rex figure that does an action like this. And there is actually another button that you can use to swing the tail back and forth. Plus, the rest of this figure is posable as well. You can move the arms, the legs, and you can move the tail by yourself if you want to as well. Here I've got a little Carnotaurus figure from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. It's got a dark green body with the orange detailing along the top and a pretty posable body. You can move the arms, the legs, you can twist the tail, and you can actually move the neck around and open and close the jaw manually. Here is the last Spinosaurus in this bin. This is the extreme chomping Spinosaurus from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the light tan body with the red detailing on its spine and on its face. And it's got a posable body. You can move the neck around to look in all directions. You can move the arms and the legs and the tail as well. And there's the button on the top of its head for chomping and roaring. Here's what looks like a baby Carnotaurus figure. It's got a much smaller body but a larger head, and it has two action buttons, one for blinking and moving the eyes, and one for the chomping action on its tail. And it is a posable figure as well. You can move the arms and you can move the legs around too. Way in the back here, I've got a super colossal T-Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. This figure has a dark brown body with darker detailing all over. It's got the light underbelly and the stomach compartment and a ginormous jaw that you can feed smaller dinosaurs. Plus, all the limbs on this dinosaur are posable. You can move the arms, the legs, the ankles, and the tail too. Next is the super colossal Carnotaurus Toro. It has the iconic clay red coloring like many of the Carnotaurus figures with the brown detailing along the top, along with a super bumpy texture along its back. It has a lighter underbelly with the stomach compartment. You can feed it tons of little dinosaurs. It's got some bright orange eyes and the battle damage right along its nose. That's a pretty big gash too. And you can move all the limbs in this figure, including the neck, the arms, the legs, and the tail. And finally, here is the super colossal Gigantosaurus figure. It's got the green and black body with the huge spines along its back. It's got some pretty crazy and unique looking teeth. Look how they fit together when it closes its mouth. That's pretty cool. It's got some reflective gold eyes, and all the limbs on this figure are movable too. You can move the neck, you can move the arms, even the wrists, move the legs and ankles, and you can move the tail back and forth too. Welcome to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today I'm going to show you 100 Jurassic World dinosaur figures, so let's dig in. Let's start with this bin on the right. The very first one is a battle damaged T-Rex with the orange body and the brown top. This T-Rex is dark green in color. It's got some black detailing along its back, and it's got the button at the top of its head for chomping and roaring. This is the Gigantosaurus from the Dominion series. It's got the green body with brown detailing and the orange crown on the top of its head. Here we've got another T-Rex with the soft brown body and the darker brown along the top, and of course the button on the top of its head for chomping and roaring. This Dominion figure is a Spinosaurus. It's got a dark body with the red spine and the red head. Up next, we've got a T-Rex figure, but this is actually a hybrid T-Rex. You can tell because it has spines that pop out of its back by pressing this button, and the jaw opens and closes as well. Here is another T-Rex figure, but this is a gray-brown T-Rex. It's got some darker brown along the top. It's very adjustable, and you can open and close the mouth too. Way back here is a camouflage T-Rex. It's got some sound effects too. You can open and close the mouth, and you can do a chomping effect too. This is a Sarcophagus. It's got some short legs, but it's got the blue body with purple and orange detailing on the top. This super bright dinosaur is another T-Rex. It is custom colored, so it is a bright red. It's got some orange and black as well. Over here is a Scorpius Rex that I'm sure you recognize from the Jurassic World movie. It has 2 action buttons, one for the jaw and one for the arms. Next up, we've got a Tarbosaurus figure. This is gray and a darker gray. It's got those huge spikes along its spine, and it's got the red chin and neck too. This is a Siatsmicrorerum. It's got the orange body with the blue detailing on its back and head, and it's got some gray detailing along the back of its body. Back here is a Gigantosaurus with the blue body and the brown and orange detailing along its back, all the way up to around its eyes. Here is a Rajasaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It has a dark body with some lighter coloring along its neck, and it has an action button for chomping. Next up, we've got an old Indominus Rex figure. This one is smaller. It's got some battle damage on the side that you can open and close, and you can use the tail to chomp the mouth. Here is a super bright dinosaur. This is the Suchomimus. It's got a bright yellow body with the brown detailing along its spine, and it has 2 action buttons. One for the jaws, and one to swing the tail. Here is another bright dinosaur. This is a Gigantosaurus. It's got the bright red body with some brown detailing on its back and some orange on its head. Here's another Gigantosaurus figure. This has a yellow body with some green coloring along the top, and it has the action button on its back for the jaw. This is a super cool looking Allosaurus figure. It's got the gray body with the yellow detailing all over. It's got some awesome looking red right above its eyes, and it's got an action button for the jaw. Right over here is the Gigantosaurus with a green, yellow, and blue body, and you can use the tail to control the neck. Here is a Cryolophosaurus figure. This has a bright yellow body with brown detailing and orange along the top of its body. Here's another small Indominus Rex figure. This has battle damage on the side that you can't open or close, but you can still use the tail to open and close the mouth. Next up is the Irritator. This has a brown, blue, and light blue body, and you can use the tail to control the neck. I've got a Baryonyx figure here with a brown, blue, and orange coloring on its body, and it's got an action button on its back for the jaw. Next up is another Allosaurus figure. This one has a brown and blue body, and it has a slide lever action to control the jaw. This Jurassic World figure is a Baryonyx. It's got the gray, white, and blue detailing on its body, and it has the slide lever action to control the jaw too. Next up, I've got the Jurassic World Hammond Collection Parasaurolophus. This figure is a light tan color. It's got some bright orange running all the way down its back, and of course, it's got the iconic horn at the top of its head. Here is another Hammond Collection figure. This is the Baryonyx. It is super adjustable and posable, and it's got some pretty cool detailing all along its body. This is a basic Spinosaurus figure. It's got the dark green body with some white detailing, and of course the red along its spine and all around its eyes. Here is the Ceratosaurus figure in the dark green coloring with black detailing on the top and the slide lever action to control the jaw. Here is another Ceratosaurus figure, but this one is in the brown and orange coloring, and it's got a button at the top of its back to control the jaw. Next up, we've got the Extreme Chompin' Carnotaurus. This is a little figure, but it has a huge head, and it has a button to control the eyes, and a button for chomping too. This figure is from the Amber Collection. I believe this one is Velociraptor Tiger. As you can tell, it's got the stripes all over its body with the orange, making it a pretty bright dinosaur. I've got a few Dimetrodon figures in here too. This first one is a light blue with a red spine. I've also got this green Dimetrodon with an even brighter red spine. Here is a small Carnotaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. Next up, I've got a few Monolophosaurus figures. This first one is a soft green color with darker detailing, and this other figure is a brown Monolophosaurus with gray detailing on its body. Here is a baby Brachiosaurus in the light green color. Got a couple horned small dinosaurs here. This first one is the Zuniceratops. It's got some bright coloring on the side of its body. And this one is the battle-damaged Triceratops. I've got a few small Dilophosaurus figures in here as well. This first one is brown, blue, and white, especially on the front. And this other one is a soft green, and it's got some orange, red, and yellow on its body. This is the battle-damaged Coelurus figure. You can see that you can press this button on its back to activate the battle damage on the side. Let's see what else I got. I've got another Monolophosaurus figure. This one is a bright green color. It's got some red on the front. And this is a Herrerasaurus. It is a gray-blue color with the white detailing along the top of its body. Of course, I've got a few Velociraptor figures in here in this first bin. This first one is a green color. It has a button on its back to activate the arms. And this second Velociraptor figure has its legs spring-loaded, so you can actually launch it into the air. And the last one's in this first bin. We still have one more bin to go. I've got a handful of herbivore figures. This first figure is a Minmi in the green coloring. I've also got a Sauropelta in the red and gray coloring with the huge spikes. Here is Ankylosaurus Bumpy from Camp Cretaceous. And can you guess the name of this herbivore dinosaur? Let me know down in the comments below. Now it's time for this second bin that will complete my 100 Jurassic World dinosaur figure haul. And I've actually got some brand new ones that we're gonna open up before we get into the bin. This first one is the Proceratosaurus figure. Alright, so this figure is mostly red. It's got some yellow detailing along the top of its back and neck. And it's got some lime green eyes too. It's pretty cool. Next up is the Jurassic World Velociraptor figure. This Velociraptor is orange in color. It's got some brown detailing along the top, and it's got those bright yellow eyes. Next up is the Jurassic World Atrociraptor figure. This Atrociraptor figure is the white and brown one that I'm sure you recognize from the movie, and it's got those evil-looking red eyes. And next up, we've got the Jurassic World Pyroraptor. I'm sure you recognize this figure from the Jurassic World Dominion movie as well. It's got a black and red body, and it's got those yellow-orange eyes too. Here we've got the small Sound Surge Gigantosaurus. It still has the green coloring with the black detailing along the top, and it comes with some sound effects. Here is another Gigantosaurus figure, but a whole lot larger. Still has the same coloring with a bit more detail with the black, I think. And it's got two actions. The first is for swinging the torso back and forth. And the second is for the jaws. This is a Spinosaurus figure that is dark green in color, just like the one we saw earlier, and it has the red detailing along its spine and all over its head too. Next up, we've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. It is tan in color and it has a button on its back to activate the jaws. Here we've got another Carcharodontosaurus figure. We saw one earlier that had totally different coloring. This one is tan in color and it's got brown and orange detailing all along its back up to its head. This is a giant Indominus Rex figure with extreme battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off by pressing a button. I've got another Indominus Rex figure here. This one does not have the battle damage on the side, but instead the button activates the claws for slashing. Here's one of my coolest Spinosaurus figures. It has the most intricate detailing and coloring out of all of my Spinosaurus figures. It's got some blue on the spine, its eyes are a bright green color, and of course it's got the button at the top of its head for opening and closing the jaw. Here's another Sarcophagus figure. This one is green on the sides and belly and clay red along the top. Next up is an Allosaurus figure. This one is dark green with white and red detailing along its back and neck. And it's got the slide lever action to activate the jaw and sound effects. This is the Endoraptor. This figure actually has two actions. The first is on its tail. When you press that, it swings its arms shut. It's also got a button on the bottom of its tail to activate the jaw. And you can use the tail to swing the torso around too. This is a Megaraptor figure from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. It's got some huge claws in the front and it's got a red and blue body. Down here, we've got a Stegosaurus figure that is gray-blue and it has some darker detailing along the top. And it has an action button to activate the tail for swinging back and forth. Here is another Scorpius Rex figure, but this is the basic edition, so you can't open and close the jaw, but you can still move the arms, the legs, and the tail. Back here is the Ankylosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got a bright clay red body with the brown detailing on top, and you can use the tail to control the neck and the jaws too. I believe this dinosaur is called an Amargosaurus. It's got the brown body with black detailing and the red all along its neck down to its tail too. And it's got two action buttons, one to activate the neck and one to activate the tail. This is a big Velociraptor blue figure. You can see the iconic blue all the way down its back, and of course the yellow eyes too. Here we've got another Allosaurus figure. This one is tan, dark blue, and bright blue, and it has two action buttons, one for the jaw and one for the arms. Here is a large Dilophosaurus figure. It has a battle damage button on the side, and it's got some super bright colors all over. It's got green, yellow, orange, and it's got some brown detailing all along its body too. If I remember correctly, this is an Iguanodon figure. It's got some detailing of tan and darker brown along the top, and it has an action button that moves its head up and down. This is a hybrid Triceratops Stegosaurus. It's got some battle damage on the side, and its entire body is super bright. It's got blue, it's got dark blue, and it's got a bunch of gold all over its body too. This is a Suchomimus in the dark blue color with the yellow detailing along its spine, and it's got one action button to activate the jaw. I've got another large Velociraptor figure in here. This one is the orange color, and this actually might be the same one that I opened up earlier on. It's got the brown detailing on the top and the yellow eyes too. This figure, I believe, is the Proceratosaurus. It's got a tan body with gray detailing and the red nose and orange eyes. Here we've got another Stegosaurus figure. This one is in a light blue-green color. It's got darker detailing along the top, and of course it's got the action button for swinging the tail back and forth. This is a Triceratops figure. It's got the clay red coloring with the brown detailing, and it's got an action button on its back to move the head up and down. This is a small Spinosaurus figure, and it is super brightly colored with the blue and red along its spine. It's also got some battle damage, and you can use the tail to move the head around too. I've got two small T-Rex figures in here. This first one though is actually a hybrid T-Rex, a hybrid with a Dilophosaurus, and it's got this super bright orange and gold all over its body. And this second smaller T-Rex figure is green with the battle damage on the side, and you can use the tail to control the mouth just like the other one. Our second to last dinosaur is a hybrid Stegosaurus Triceratops. This one is brown in color, it's got some yellow detailing on its legs, and it's got the battle damage on the side. And our final dinosaur of the 100 Jurassic World dinosaur figures is the Pseudoceratops. With the dark blue body, it's got the green legs and the red detailing along the top. Today on Amazing Dinosaurs, we're going to be checking out a huge collection of apex predators from Jurassic World and lining them up from biggest to smallest. So let's get started right over here with this super colossal T-Rex figure. This figure is featuring some custom gray skin and some bright red eyes, and I love the teeth on this figure. They're a lot darker than a lot of dinosaur teeth. So we're gonna put this one at the very left because it is the biggest one of this collection. Our next biggest apex predator in this collection is this super colossal Velociraptor Blue. This giant figure features some dark gray blue skin, it's got the iconic blue stripe running down the sides, and it has some white, shorter teeth compared to the T-Rex. Let's set it down right next to the super colossal T-Rex. Alright, let's see, next up in size is probably this Indominus Rex figure. This figure, although a little bit smaller than the super colossal, is one of the biggest predators that I have, and this one is actually the battle damage edition that you can turn on and off with the click of a button. It also has an adjustable head and a button at the end of its tail that activates the jaw. Next up in size, we've got this awesome colored Spinosaurus figure. Now this figure was custom colored, which is why you'll see a lot more detail with the coloring and the shading compared to many of the other figures. Even the teeth are a much dirtier, nastier color, which I love. Looks totally realistic. Let's grab our next dinosaur, which is this huge Pyroraptor figure. Now this figure is actually pretty special because it is battery operated and it responds to you. So let's tap it on the head and see what happens. Look at that. Its eyes change, it's moving around. Looks pretty angry right now. And you can touch its chin as well. It'll respond to you there. It's pretty cool. Check that out. Now its eyes are green, which means it's more friendly. All right, let's set it down right next to the Spinosaurus. Next up in size is one of my proudest dinosaur figures in my entire collection. I actually custom painted this Stomp and Escape T-Rex. It's got some brown on the top, green on the sides, and then the light yellow underbelly as well. This for sure is one of my best repaints, and it's next in size, so let's put it down right next to the Pyroraptor. For our next biggest apex predator, we've got another T-Rex figure right here. This one is also in a green color, and it also has the black stripes on the top of its body and some on its face as well. And it has a button on the top of its head that you can use to open and close its mouth. Next up in size is actually a vintage figure from Jurassic Park. This is a Utah Raptor figure, and it stands almost as tall as the Jurassic World T-Rexes. And this figure, since it's one of the old Jurassic Park ones, it actually has rubber skin, so it feels quite a bit different and looks a bit different too. It's a lot less shiny. Over here is one of my favorite apex predator dinosaurs. This is the Carnotaurus. I love the coloring on this dinosaur, and I love the way it looks. It looks kind of like a T-Rex, but it's got some horns on the top of its head, and it's got much smaller arms too. This is a totally awesome figure, so let's set it down right next to the Utah Raptor. Up next, let's see, I think it's probably the Gigantosaurus figure right here. This figure features a dark blue body with some orange and dark brown detailing, and it has a button on its back that you can press for the chomping action. Let's set this down right next to the Carnotaurus. Next up, let's go with the Albertosaurus figure. And this one is actually a special edition Albertosaurus because it has the battle damage right on the side that you can open and close. You can even move the ribs up and down too. And check that out, it's got some slashes on its body as well. Let's put this next in line. Next in line is an Allosaurus figure. And this figure features a slide lever button on its back to activate roars and to open and close the jaws too. And it's pretty similar inside to the Albertosaurus, so let's put it right next to it. Next, I've got this Baryonyx figure with battle damage featured all over its body. It's got some on its leg, its neck, and there's an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Now it's pretty close in size to an Allosaurus figure, but check out the difference in size between their bodies. The Allosaurus is way bigger. Check it out, I've actually got another Baryonyx figure. This one features the green, dark green, and brown coloring on its body. And it's got a slide lever action on its back to activate the jaw and the sound effects. And this figure is basically the same size as the Baryonyx right next to it. Check it out, we've got another T-Rex figure. This is the Sound Surge Edition T-Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. So let's set it down right next to the Baryonyx figure, just a little bit smaller. Over here is a yellow Cryolophosaurus figure. Check out the crown on the top of its head. That's really cool. Plus, with this figure, you can use its tail to move its head around in a real lifelike way. All right, let's set it down next in size. This next figure is a Ceratosaurus figure in the dark green coloring with the black detailing on the top. And like many of the newer figures, it has a slide lever action on its back to activate the jaw and the sound effects. For our next apex predator, we've got our first Dilophosaurus figure of this collection. This is an older figure and it features an action when you move the tail, it moves its head back and forth. All right, we're getting down to the much smaller figures. This next figure is another old Jurassic World figure. This one is a T-Rex. It's got the bright green coloring with some battle damage on the side, and you can use the tail to move the head. This next Jurassic World apex predator is a Spinosaurus in some crazy coloring. It's got the bright red spine with stripes and the blue body as well. And check it out, there's even a little battle damage on the side too. Let's set it down right next to the T-Rex. This figure is the Jurassic World Dominion Extreme Damage Velociraptor. It's got a button on the top of its back that you can use to reveal the battle damage right on the side. Here is another Velociraptor figure. This one is a bit older than the Dominion Velociraptor that we just saw, and it has a soft green body with the darker green on top. Next, we've got an Atrociraptor figure that I'm sure you recognize from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. Let's set this down right next to the Velociraptors. Our next apex predator is the Dimetrodon dinosaur. This figure features a huge spine running along its back and adjustable limbs and jaw as well. We're gonna set this one up in front of the other line because we're running out of space. So let's go to our final dinosaur, which is a Snap Squad Carnotaurus. Once again, one of my favorite dinosaurs. Let's set this right at the end. Today on Amazing Dinosaurs, we are checking out a collection of T-Rexes versus Spinosaurid figures. Let's get started with this first T-Rex front and center. This is the Stomp and Escape T-Rex. You can twist the tail to stomp its feet up and down. And you can press the button on its back to lift its head up for a roar. From the Spinosaurid side, we have this Spinosaurus figure. This is the Legacy Collection Spinosaurus with the dark green body and the classic red spine. And you can use the button on its head to open and close its mouth. On the T-Rex side, we've got this smaller T-Rex figure with the brown and gray coloring. It's pretty adjustable. You can move the arms, legs, and tail, and you can move the neck around, so it's actually double jointed. And it has a button on the top of its head to open and close the mouth. The next Spinosaurid is another Spinosaurus figure, but with totally different coloring. This one is actually custom colored, so it is a lot more detailed and a bit crazy with the coloring. It's really cool. And it has the same features of the movable arms, legs, tail, and head, and the button at the top of its head to open and close the jaw. On the T-Rex side, we've got one of the coolest figures yet. This is the new Hammond Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This is one of the most posable figures I have. You can twist its torso, its head, its neck, its tail is double jointed, and its face is one of the most realistic that I have. check out those marble eyes. I really love that feature. From the Spinosaurid side, we've got an Ichthyovenator dinosaur. This dinosaur, of course, has the huge spine on its back and stands on its 2 legs. It's got some super bright green coloring and some darker green as well. And this Spinosaurid figure has an action that when you press down on its back, it chomps its mouth. On the T-Rex side, we've got a Terran T-Rex. As you can tell by the name, it has a tearing feature with a button on its back. Plus, it even has a second button for swinging the tail back and forth too, and the tail is double jointed. Here is another giant Spinosaurus figure. This one is the classic Camp Cretaceous figure with the brown and red spine, and it's got the orange eyes and the button on the top of its head to open and close its mouth. Next up, we've got a new figure from the Tyrannosaurus family. This is the Sinotyrannus figure. Let's check it out, but before we do, be sure to subscribe to the channel. All right, here it is, and it comes with this dino tracking headpiece right here, which is pretty cool. It's got some interesting texturing all over its body. It's got some spikes at the top. It's got a double jointed tail, and you can see that there are 2 buttons on its back. The first button activates its tail for swinging back and forth, and the second button activates its jaw and its neck too. From the Spinosaurid side, we have a Suchomimus figure with the yellow and brown coloring. And this figure has 2 action buttons. The first operates the chomping of the jaw, and the second activates the swinging of the tail. This next T-Rex that I've got is a huge one, and it is one of my favorite colored T-Rexes. This is actually custom colored, and it looks like a camo green color all over its body. And on this figure, you can use the tail to lift its head up for a roar, or you can move the tail for a chomping action too. Here's another T-Rex figure. This one is a bit older. It has a rubberized tail and a chomping action when you move the tail. The next Spinosaurid figure is a custom Hammond Collection Spinosaurus figure. Check out the cool coloring. It's got the red and of course the red spine and a very adjustable arms, legs, and head as well. Next up, we've got a battle damage T-Rex figure in the orange and brown coloring. You can see the battle damage on its neck, on its chin, on its leg, and everywhere else as well. And like many of the other T-Rex figures, you can use the button at the top of its head to open and close its mouth. The next Spinosaurid is the Irritator. This dinosaur has a smaller spine running down its back, and on this figure you can use the tail to move the head around. Plus, you can manually open the mouth as well. Here's another Spinosaurid. This is the Siamosaurus figure. It's got the dark blue coloring, a huge bright red spine, and you can use the tail to move its head up and down, as well as chomp its jaw shut. Here's one of my oldest Spinosaurus figures. This is from Jurassic Park. It's much smaller and designed very differently. It's got some bright coloring, the huge spine, and a much shorter jaw than many of the new Spinosaurus figures. Here is another classic T-Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the brown body and the tail that you can use to operate the neck and the head and open and close its jaws too. Next up, we've got a smaller Spinosaurus figure. This is the basic edition. It's got the dark green with the red spine, and you can only move the arms, the legs, and the tail on this figure. Our last T-Rex of the collection is this baby T-Rex, a whole lot smaller. It's got some bright green coloring though, with some cool detailing along the top, and you can use the tail to open and close the mouth. And last of all is this older Jurassic World Spinosaurus figure. It's a whole lot smaller than many of my other Spinosaurus figures. It's got some battle damage on the side, and you can use the tail to move the head around and open and close the jaw. Today on Amazing Dinosaurs, we are checking out 100 Jurassic World figures. I've got Camp Cretaceous, I've got Jurassic World Dominion, there's Fallen Kingdom, and a whole lot more. The first figure is this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's got a dark green body with the yellow underbelly and the black top and a button that activates the jaw. This figure is the Dino Tracker series Endoraptor. Check it out. And there's a button on its back that activates the jaw too. Here is the Camp Cretaceous Spinosaurus. This figure is ginormous, and it's got the button at the top of its head to activate the jaw. Over here we've got another Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This one's a little bit smaller. It's got the brown coloring and the jaw attack button. This is the Dino Tracker's Sinotyrannus figure. It's got two buttons on its back, one to activate the jaw and one to activate the tail. Here is the Suchomimus figure with the dark blue and yellow coloring. It's got the big spine running down its back and an attack button for its jaw. Here is an old Jurassic World figure. This one was actually custom painted to be red and black, and it has an action button on its back to activate the jaw. This is the Gigantosaurus figure with the blue, orange, and brown coloring. This is the Albertosaurus figure in the green and orange coloring, and it has an attack button on its tail to operate the jaw. Next up is the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. Here's another Dino Trackers figure. This is the Diabloceratops. Check out that awesome red coloring and this action button that moves its head. This Pteranodon figure, I believe, is part of the Amber collection. It actually has rubberized wings, so it feels really realistic. This is the Rowdy Roars Carnotaurus figure. It's got the classic coloring for a Carnotaurus and an action button for chomping. Here is the gigantic Tracker Stegosaurus. It comes with this cool backpack feature, and it has two buttons on its back that swing the tail up and down and back and forth. Here is a classic Baryonyx figure with the reflective blue coloring on the top of its head. Next up, we've got a Cryolophosaurus figure in the bright yellow coloring with the brown and orange detailing. This figure right here is a Spinosaurus. This is a basic figure, so there's not a whole lot you can do with it, but you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here from Jurassic World Dominion is an Iguanodon figure. It's got the soft tan coloring and an attack button when you press down on its back. This figure is a Kentrosaurus. It looks quite a bit like a Stegosaurus, but it's got these huge spikes on the side that you can swing back and forth. This figure, I believe, is called an Edmontosaurus. It's got some pretty cool coloring, and you can use the tail to control the head. Next up, we've got a basic Velociraptor figure in the orange color. You can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here is the dark green Ceratosaurus figure. It has a slide lever action on its back to activate the sound effects and its chomping action. This is a Triceratops figure in the brown, blue, and dark blue coloring. And on this figure, you can move the tail to move the head around. Here is an older and pretty rare Jurassic World figure. This is a hybrid Tyrannosaurus and Dilophosaurus. And check out that super bright coloring. Up next, we've got a Sinoceratops figure in the soft green coloring. And this figure features the tail that you can use to move the head around. This next figure is an Allosaurus in the gray and yellow coloring. And it has an attack button on its back to chomp its jaw open and closed. Here's a dinosaur figure that I don't have that many of. This is a Concavinator. It's got a huge spine on its back that actually you can press to swing its tail back and forth. Plus, there's an action button on the front of its back to chomp its jaw open and closed. Here is a Pteranodon figure with foldable wings. And when it's fully expanded, it's probably over a foot long. Plus, there's a button on its back to flap its wings back and forth. Here is a miniature Indominus Rex figure with a little bit of battle damage on its side. I've also got this older Jurassic World Allosaurus figure, and it looks quite a bit different from the new Allosaurus figures that Mattel is releasing. Up next is a miniature Dilophosaurus figure with the purple and some bright yellow, red, and orange. This is a Moros Intrepidus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the green, orange, and white body. Here is a Velociraptor Beta figure. It's got the classic blue stripe down both sides, and you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail too. Next, I've got a Battle Damage Atrociraptor figure. Check it out, you can turn on and off the battle damage with the click of a button. Here is a Pachycephalosaurus figure in the orange and green coloring, and it has an action. We press down on the tail and it headbutts. Check out this crazy looking dinosaur. I actually can't remember the name of it, so let me know in the comments below if you know what it is. Here is a super bright Velociraptor figure with the red and the green stripes on top, plus it's actually spring-loaded. Up next, I've got a Zunoceratops figure with the green and dark blue coloring. Check out those huge horns on the top of its head too. Here's another spring-loaded Velociraptor. This one is brown though. Up next is a small Parasaurolophus figure. And actually what comes with this figure is a Dr. Ian Malcolm figure. This is a Dimetrodon figure with a huge bright orange spine all the way down its back. This figure is the baby Brachiosaurus with the light green and darker green coloring on top. Here I've got a Monolophosaurus figure with the brown and gray detailing. From Jurassic World Dominion, this is another Atrociraptor figure. This one has the orange and the tan striping. I've also got a miniature Pyroraptor figure here. This one has the classic red and black coloring, along with a feather texture along all of its body. I've also got some more miniature Velociraptor figures in here. This first one has an action button on its back to swing its arms back and forth. And I've also got this bright yellow and brown Velociraptor figure too. It's got some battle damage right there on the side. This unusual figure is a Minmi dinosaur. It's got the spikes all the way down its back and on top of its head. This next figure is a baby T-Rex, and it comes with an action. When you move its tail, it chomps its jaw open and closed. And here we've got a miniature Pteranodon figure. Plus it has an action button on its back to flap its wings. Let's open up some brand new ones next. Let's see what this one is. These are a bunch of uncaged, wild pop-ups. First up, we've got Velociraptor Blue. Next up is a Dilophosaurus. There's also a Carnotaurus, and best of all, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Next up, I've got a new Jurassic World Dominion Triceratops figure. Let's check it out. This Triceratops has the soft green body with the darker green and the orange in the front. Let's move on to our second bin here. This figure is the Siamosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got a button right on its tail to activate the jaw. Up next is the Ampulosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It has a super long neck and an action button to activate the jaw. Now here is a really cool looking T-Rex. This is a custom colored T-Rex to look like fire. And of course, it's got the button at the top of its head to open and close its jaw. Here is the Scorpius Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got two action buttons, one to activate its jaw and one to activate its arms. This is a battle damage Baryonyx figure. You can check out that battle damage on its neck and on its leg, and it has an action button on its back for chomping. This interesting looking dinosaur is an Amargospinus. This dinosaur also has a long neck and some amazing looking spines on its back. Here is the Jurassic World Dominion T-Rex with the Battle Damage Edition. You can click the battle damage on and off just with the button on top. Here's a vintage Jurassic World figure. This one is actually a hybrid T-Rex. I think it's mixed with a Spinosaurus. Check it out. It's got some spines that pop out right at the top of its back. Next up, we've got the amazing Therizinosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. You can use the tail to swivel its body around and use the action button on its tail to open and close the jaw. Next up, we've got a Stegosaurus figure in the light blue-green color. Plus, it has an action button. When you press down here, it swings its tail back and forth. Here's one of the largest Atrociraptor figures that I have. This one comes in the classic white with brown striping. I've got another extreme battle damage T-Rex here, but instead of battle damage shown right here, there's actually painted battle damage all over its body. Next up, I've got a Sarcosuchus figure. This dinosaur is really long and short, and you can use the tail to control the head. Here's another T-Rex figure. This one is in a soft brown with darker brown along the top, and of course the action button at the top of the head to operate the jaw. Next up, this figure is the Gigantosaurus. It has two action buttons, one to swing its torso, and one to open and close the jaw. This is the Indoraptor with the gold stripe and the black body, and it is a very poseable dinosaur figure. This is the basic Velociraptor blue figure. You can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, and of course it's got the awesome iconic coloring. From the Hammond collection here, we've got the Baryonyx figure. It is very poseable, and it's got some awesome coloring too. Here's a crazy looking dinosaur. This is a special edition Ankylosaurus figure. It actually has a removable shell. I've also got the regular edition Ankylosaurus as well. This figure is from Jurassic World Dominion. This is the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus figure. Check it out, it's another Sarcosuchus figure, but this one has some different coloring with the purple, orange, red, and blue. Here is another Ceratosaurus figure, but this one is in the brown and orange coloring. Let's check out that chomping action. Here is a vintage Jurassic World Mosasaurus figure. It's a lot smaller than the figures that are coming out with now, and it's got some battle damage that you can open and close right on the side. Next up is one of the largest winged dinosaurs. This is the Quetzalcoatlus. This figure has two action buttons, one to flap the wings and the other to open and close the mouth. This figure is super old. This is a Jurassic Park Spinosaurus figure. Here are a few small figures. These are both Gallimimuses. I've got another Dimetrodon figure in here. This one has an action. When you press down on its tail, it opens and closes its jaw. This winged figure is a Dimorphodon. Check out those fiery wings. From Camp Cretaceous, we've got a baby Ankylosaurus Bumpy figure. This next figure is from Jurassic World Dominion. This is a Miragaia. Check out those huge spikes coming out of its shoulders. Next up, we've got another classic Ceratosaurus figure. This one has the yellow, black, and red coloring. Here's another dinosaur with some huge spikes coming out of its back. This is a Sauropelta. This next little dinosaur, I believe, is called a Coelurus. It's got a tan body with some brown and some blue detailing. Over here, we've got some Monolophosaurus figures, one in a soft green color, and it's got some battle damage on the side, and one in a dark blue with some tan coloring. I've also got some more Velociraptor figures in here. I've got a Velociraptor Beta figure. Here's another spring-loaded, super bright Velociraptor figure. And a dark green Velociraptor in the stealth crawling pose. This next figure is a Carnotaurus, and this one is from Jurassic World Dominion. It's pretty unique because it's got the dark green body with the orange detailing, and it's also got a broken horn on the top of its head. Here is a Stygimoloch figure. It's got some gray and some dark blue coloring, and some huge spikes coming out of its head. Plus, this figure has an action. When you press down on its tail, it activates the headbutting. Here we've got another aquatic dinosaur. I believe this one is called a Plesiosaurus, and it has one action button on its back to flap its flippers. And last of all, we've got a baby Triceratops figure in the light green coloring and some battle damage on the side that you can open and close. Today on Amazing Dinosaurs, we are checking out Camp Cretaceous predators versus Jurassic World Dominion predators. Let's get started with one of the biggest Dominion predators that I have. This is the new T-Rex figure. This newest T-Rex figure has a ginormous head, the tiny arms that are classic for a T-Rex, and you can use the tail to move the torso around and open and close the jaw. Our first Camp Cretaceous predator is this huge Spinosaurus figure in the tan, brown, and red coloring. This figure is quite adjustable. It has much larger arms than the T-Rex figure, and you can move the head in all different directions and open and close its jaw. This predator over here from Jurassic World Dominion is the Gigantosaurus. And this is one of the biggest stars in the new movie. It has a pretty awesome spine running along its back. It looks pretty sharp and dangerous. And this figure has two features. The first swings its torso back and forth, and the second opens and closes its jaw. Next, let's grab one of these huge, super colossal Camp Cretaceous predators. This is the Indominus Rex, and this figure is so much larger than all the other figures I have. It's got some spikes on the back of its neck, even on its elbows. It's got some huge claws, and of course, the iconic teeth. Back to the Dominion side, we've got a huge Allosaurus figure. This figure also stands on its two hind legs. It's got some medium-sized front arms, and it has a button on its back to control the jaw. And there's battle damage on the side that you can open and close. Let's go ahead and grab this other super colossal figure from Camp Cretaceous. This figure is a Carnotaurus, and it is actually the Carnotaurus Toro figure. It's got little spikes running down all of its back. It's got some huge horns on the top of its head, and on the other side of its head, it actually has a huge battle damage scar. That is really cool. This Dominion predator is the Dino Tractor Endoraptor figure. It's got a really cool dark blue reflective painting all over its body, along with the classic gold stripe down both sides. And this figure has some pretty cool features. First, you can use the arms to twist its head around and open its mouth. And there's also a button on its back that activates the jaw just by itself. Check out those eyes that light up too. Here is our first T-Rex predator from Camp Cretaceous. This figure has the tiny front arms and the huge back legs. And with this figure, you can use the tail to twist its neck, move it all around in all sorts of different directions, and look super realistic. But wait, we've also got a T-Rex figure from Jurassic World Dominion. This predator has the battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off, and the coloring is quite a bit different from the Camp Cretaceous version. It's a lot darker, there's some orange, and then even the top is different as well. This is a much smaller Carnotaurus Toro figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got a much darker red coloring than the super colossal version we saw, although it still has the battle damage scar right on its nose. And with this figure, you can use the tail to twist its neck around and open and close its jaw. Check out those sound effects too. Our next Dominion predator is actually a brand new one that I'm gonna open up right here today. This is the Scorpio Venator from the Roar Strikers series. This dinosaur species kind of reminds me of a Carnotaurus, although its snout is a lot shorter and it doesn't have the horns on the top of its head. And it's got some pretty cool coloring as well, with the yellow, the dark blue, and the white. And this figure has an action where you press down on its body and it chomps. This Camp Cretaceous predator is the Scorpius Rex figure. And I've actually got two of them right here. This one is the larger one though. This one has a dark blue coloring and the black on top with two action buttons. The first activates its jaw, and the second activates its slashing arms. Plus, it has a spring-loaded tail so you can swing those poisonous quills back and forth. Here is my second Scorpius Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's a bit smaller, and you can see it has green coloring instead of the dark blue and the yellow underbelly as well. And this figure is quite adjustable. You can move its arms, its elbows, you can move its legs and knees and the tail around as well, but there is no action button for this one, so you have to control all the parts manually. This predator from Jurassic World Dominion is the Rajasaurus. I've actually got two figures of this species, and this one is in the light brown and dark blue coloring. It's got some interesting spikes and a horn on the top of its head, and it has a chomping action when you press down on its body. Up next from Camp Cretaceous is the Cryolophosaurus figure. I've also got two of this species as well. This one is in the dark blue, white, and red coloring, and it comes with a ton of sound effects and a tail that moves the head around. This predator is the Pyroraptor from Jurassic World Dominion. It's a basic figure, so it doesn't have a whole lot going on with its coloring, but it's got some cool texturing with the feathers you can see on its tail, as well as on the top of its head too. Back here from Dominion as well is another raptor, but this one is actually a Megaraptor figure. It's got some similar red coloring with some dark blue, and this figure has a chomping action when you press down on its body. This predator from Camp Cretaceous is the Sarcosuchus. It has some pretty bright and crazy coloring that you probably wouldn't see out in the wild, with the purple, there's some red and orange, and then the blue underbelly. But this one has a really long snout with tons of teeth, which I think is a really cool feature. Plus, you can operate the jaw by pressing the button on the tail. Here's a dinosaur that probably not too many people are familiar with. This is the Yangchuanosaurus. It stands on its two back legs, it has some medium-sized front arms, it's got a bright crown on the top of its head, and some cool ridges that run all the way down its neck. And this figure features two actions. You can use the tail to twist the torso back and forth, and the button on the tail activates the jaw. This dark green Albertosaurus figure is from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the orange stripe running down both sides of its body. And while there's not a whole lot that you can move on this figure, there is an action button on its tail, both to move the head around and to open and close the jaw. Here is another one of my newest figures in the Dominion collection. This is from the Dino Trackers series. This is, I believe it's pronounced an Eocarcharia. It's got the feather texturing all over its body, just like the Pyroraptor, and it has an action slide on its back used to open its mouth and twist its neck back and forth. This is the Dominion Atrociraptor, and I think it's one of the first Atrociraptors in this collection. This one is a pretty basic figure, so you can move the arms, the legs, and the tail, but it doesn't have any action buttons or features. This predator is the Baryonyx figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the green and brown body, and an action button on its back to activate its long jaw. Here is the second Gigantosaurus of this predator collection. This is a much smaller version of the Gigantosaurus, but it still has the same awesome coloring, and it comes with sound effects as well. Over here from Camp Cretaceous, we've got another Baryonyx figure. It has similar coloring with the green and brown, and also an action button on its back to activate its jaw. Now check out this Atrociraptor figure from Dominion. This is part of the Rowdy Roars collection. You can press the button on the top of its head for sound effects and some movement. And you can touch its jaw and it'll move around as well. Here is our last Camp Cretaceous predator of this collection. This is the Ceratosaurus. It's got the huge horn on the top of its head and the classic Ceratosaurus coloring, and a slide lever action for sound effects and moving the jaw. And here is a much smaller Carnotaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the broken horn on the top of its head and very different coloring compared to the Camp Cretaceous Carnotaurus figures. Welcome back. Today I've got a ton of Allosauruses, Carnotauruses, and Spinosauruses, and I'm gonna be putting them all up on this empty space on my display shelves. Let's start with this big old custom colored Spinosaurus figure. This figure was custom painted a long time ago and has a ton more detail than a lot of the other Spinosaurus figures, and is one of my favorites because of that color coding. Let's grab some of these other Spinosauruses. This is the Camp Cretaceous Spinosaurus with the tan and the red spine and red face. Why don't we put that one right next to the custom colored one, right over here. And here's another giant Spinosaurus figure. I believe this one is the Legacy Collection Spinosaurus, so it's got different coloring than the Camp Cretaceous dinosaur, but it has the same red spine and the red face as well. And look at the color difference with their eyes. Next up, I actually just bought another custom colored Spinosaurus. So let's open it up and see what it looks like. All right, so this is a Hammond Collection Spinosaurus that has been custom colored by someone that I purchased from on eBay. It's still got the red spine, but it's got some cool blue coloring. It's got red along its back. It's got a bunch of white, pretty good detailing. This is really cool, and it's got some darker green eyes as well. So let's put this right in front of these bigger Spinosaurus figures. All right, let's dig into some of these Carnotaurus figures. This first one is one of the darker versions, so it's a brown with black spots on its back, and of course it's got the action button on its tail to open and close its mouth with sound effects too. So let's put this right here next to our Spinosaurus figures. And let's go ahead and grab some of these other Carnotaurus figures too. This is the Jurassic World Dominion Sound Surge Carnotaurus figure. There's a button right at the top that you can use to activate the sound effects. And you can see by putting them side by side the color difference between the two. This one is a lot brighter. And I've even got some more brighter ones in here too. This Carnotaurus is one of my brightest Carnotauruses. It's got a bright yellow and then it fades into the brown on the top. And just like the Carnotaurus on the far right, it also has the button on its tail for the chomping, and you can use its tail to move its head around too. I've still got quite a few Carnotaurus figures in here. This one is a darker red with almost purplish coloring along the top, and it's a bit smaller than these large Carnotaurus figures right here. Just a little bit smaller, and it has a different action. There's a button right at the top of its back for chomping its neck back and forth. It's a little stuck though. Let's see here, I think I've got some more Spinosaurus figures in here. This one is not made by Mattel, it's a model Spinosaurus, so it's got some pretty cool different coloring, but unfortunately you can't move any of the body parts. Let's see if we got a little bit more room up here. We might have to move the Carnotauruses over. Let's see if we can set this Spinosaurus down. Way down here is another Spinosaurus figure, another model, but with entirely different coloring. It's got the red spine, like many of these Spinosaurus figures, but it's got a much darker body. Let's set this down. I think we're gonna have to move the Carnotauruses, so I'm just gonna put this one here for now and move the Carnotauruses down to the next level. Let's see what else. Let's start with the Allosauruses. This is my biggest Allosaurus figure, and it is the extreme battle damage version from Jurassic World Dominion. Let's set this down on the far corner of the lower shelf. I've got my Carnotauruses already set up over here and the Spinosauruses on the next level. Let's go ahead and grab another Allosaurus figure. I've got a gray and yellow one, a whole lot smaller than this Jurassic World Dominion figure, but still pretty cool. It has an action on its back for snapping the jaw. And moving right along, let's grab this Spinosaurus figure. This is an old one, a Jurassic Park Spinosaurus, so it looks way different compared to these new ones over here. Let's go ahead and set it down next to these model Spinosauruses. Right over here, we've got another Allosaurus figure. This one has the tan and two-toned blue coloring. It's got two actions on its back, one for clamping the jaw and one for swinging the arms. Set this down right next to the gray and yellow Allosaurus. Let's see, all right, another Carnotaurus figure. This is a model Carnotaurus figure. It's got some really cool coloring patterns, and it's got a bright orange face, which is unlike any of the Mattel figures. Let's put this Carnotaurus much smaller down right there. Here's another small Carnotaurus, but this one is made by Mattel. This is actually from Jurassic World Dominion. So it's got different coloring compared to the rest of the older Carnotaurus figures, and it's also got a broken horn. Right over here, we've got another old Jurassic Park figure, but this one is an Allosaurus figure. This one actually has battle damage that you can take on and off its body. It's really cool how you can remove them completely. Let's put this down right next to the other Allosaurus figures. Oh, you know what? I've got this huge Carnotaurus figure right here. This is the super colossal Carnotaurus Toro figure. It is ginormous, and you can actually feed it smaller dinosaurs that'll go into its stomach compartment. And I think this dinosaur will have to go on the very top shelf. That's the only place that has space, I think. Check it out, super tall. Here is another Spinosaurus figure. This one has the same coloring as the Legacy Collection Spinosaurus, but is a lot smaller, and it's actually the basic version because you can't open and close its mouth. Looks like we've got some more model Carnotaurus figures. This one has some really cool spikes all along its back and some really interesting coloring as well. Let's set this down right in front of these larger Mattel Carnotauruses. Ooh, check out this Spinosaurus figure. This one is actually posed as if it's swimming through the water, which, if you know, Spinosauruses actually did hunt in the water. So this is pretty cool. Let's put this at the end. Looks like we got a little more space for a few more Spinosaurus figures. This Allosaurus figure is pretty recent. I believe it is a Camp Cretaceous Allosaurus and has the slide lever action for roaring and for moving the mouth. Well, looks like we're running out of room on the lower shelf. Hopefully we have enough space for the rest of the Allosauruses and Carnotauruses. Here's another model Carnotaurus figure. This one is like a green-yellow coloring. It still has some red detailing along the top, and it is in this really cool roaring pose. This might be the smallest Carnotaurus figure that I have on my shelf so far. Next up is another big old Allosaurus figure. I believe this one has pretty similar coloring to the extreme battle damage Allosaurus, but it has a slide lever action on its back for a bunch of different roars and chomping actions. I think we have enough space for one more Allosaurus right there. Perfect. Looks like we've got a juvenile Spinosaurus model figure right here. This one is by Papo. It's got some pretty cool detailing and coloring. You can still see some green along its spine right there. It's really cool. Now let's put this at the top shelf along with all the other Spinosaurus figures. Here's some figures that I don't show too often on the channel. This is a Snap Squad Spinosaurus by Jurassic World. It's a little itty bitty figure, and it actually has a spring-loaded mouth so you can clamp it onto stuff. But I just want to stand it up right here, so it's right next to all the other figures. Here's another Snap Squad figure, but this one is actually a Carnotaurus, and you can see that even this one has the battle damage right on the front of its face too. All right, looks like there's a little bit of space left. Let's see if we can stand this one up. There we go. And the remaining biggest figure is another Carnotaurus, but this one is gray, and it's almost like a gray-blue coloring. It's got some red right there on its neck, and some interesting bumps and texturing all over its body. All right, let's see where we can set this down. Maybe right here in the corner. All right, all that's left are these teeny tiny figures. These are both Spinosaurus figures from Jurassic World, and they are really small, but they have different coloring, which is pretty cool. You've got this gray and green one, as well as this brown and black Spinosaurus. And the final figure for this shelf build is this Carnotaurus figure from Jurassic World. And I think this actually came from McDonald's, so it was part of a Happy Meal or something. But it is officially part of Jurassic World. So let's put this down next to all the other Carnotaurus figures. Whoops, knocked over a few. Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.